In 1955, a 65-year-old man had $105 to his name. Not 105,000. Not 105 million. $105. His restaurant had just failed. The new interstate highway had quietly redirected traffic away from his town. Customers disappeared almost overnight. The steady flow of travelers that had sustained his business for decades simply stopped coming. The dining room sat empty. The kitchen went silent. And the man who had once built a thriving roadside restaurant stood at 65 years old with almost nothing left. Most people at 65 slow down. Most people accept their circumstances. Most people tell themselves it's too late to begin again. He did the opposite. He packed a pressure cooker into the trunk of his car. He carefully wrapped bags of his secret seasoning. He folded his white suit and placed it in the back seat. And then he began driving across America, knocking on restaurant doors, trying to sell fried chicken. That broke. 65-year-old man would go on to build one of the largest fast food empires in history. This is how $105 became KFC. From survival to skill. Harland David Sanders was born in 1890 in Henryville, Indiana. He was not born into a business family. He was not raised in privilege. He was not handed opportunities. When he was just 5 years old, his father died unexpectedly. That moment changed everything. His mother was forced to work long hours at a canning plant simply to keep the family afloat. There was no safety net. There was no inheritance. There was no cushion. Responsibility arrived early. By the age of 7, Harland was cooking meals for his younger siblings. Not experimenting with flavors. Not dreaming of restaurants. Just making sure dinner existed. Cooking became instinctive. Responsibility became automatic. Discipline became embedded. He left school in the 7th grade. Education, for him, was not a ladder upward. Work was, and he worked everywhere. He labored on farms. He operated streetcars. He worked as a railroad fireman shoveling coal into locomotives. He sold insurance door to door. He managed ferries. He enlisted in the army. He even studied law and practiced briefly. That law career ended abruptly after a courtroom argument escalated into a physical fight with a client. Opportunities closed. Doors shut. Businesses failed. Jobs disappeared. By his 40s, Sanders had experienced more setbacks than most entrepreneurs ever attempt. But something subtle was happening beneath the surface. Each failure refined him. He learned how to sell. He learned how to persuade. He learned how to read people. He learned how to operate under pressure. He learned how to recover from embarrassment. Experience was compounding quietly, even when success was not visible. The Great Depression and the first real break. In 1930, during the height of the Great Depression, Sanders began operating a Shell service station in Corbin, Kentucky. The economic climate was brutal. Unemployment was soaring. Businesses were collapsing. Families were desperate. But highways still moved people. Travelers still needed fuel. And they still needed food. Sanders noticed something simple that others overlooked. People passing through town were hungry. There weren't many reliable places to eat. So he started cooking meals for customers inside a small room attached to the gas station. At first, it was informal. Homestyle Southern food. Country ham. Fresh biscuits. Green beans. Mashed potatoes. And fried chicken. The fried chicken stood out. Drivers began telling other drivers. Word spread. Traffic increased. Soon, people stopped not for gasoline, but for Sanders' cooking. Demand grew beyond the capacity of a small room. So Sanders expanded. He opened a proper restaurant across the street. Over 100 seats. White tablecloths. Waitstaff. For the first time in his life, he was not just surviving. He was building. In 1935, The governor of Kentucky awarded him the honorary title of Colonel. It was not military rank. It was recognition. He embraced the persona. White suit, black string tie, Southern hospitality. He understood presentation before branding became a science. The man became inseparable from the product, but the business still had a structural weakness. Time. Fried chicken tastes best when it's cooked slowly. But travelers on highways do not want to wait 30 minutes for their meal. 30 minutes is an eternity for someone passing through town. Speed means turnover. Turnover means revenue. Revenue means survival. Sanders began experimenting with pressure cookers. Pressure cookers were not designed for frying. Oil under pressure can be volatile and dangerous. He ruined equipment, burned batches, adjusted heat levels, tested repeatedly. He experimented obsessively. Eventually, he found a method that dramatically reduced cooking time while preserving moisture and crispness. Crispy exterior, juicy interior, consistent flavor. Then he refined the seasoning blend. 11 herbs and spices, carefully measured, carefully guarded. That recipe would later become one of the most protected trade secrets in the food industry. The combination of speed and taste created competitive advantage. But advantage can disappear quickly when infrastructure changes. The highway that killed everything. By the early 1950s, Sanders' restaurant was thriving. It had reputation. It had repeat customers. It had momentum. Then the interstate highway system expanded. A new route bypassed Corbin entirely. The steady stream of traffic that fueled his restaurant vanished. Almost overnight. No travelers, no diners, no revenue. The dining room grew quiet. Staff were laid off. Eventually, Sanders closed the restaurant. He was 65 years old. He had no growing chain, no backup plan, no retirement fund, just a Social Security check for $105. For most people, that number would have represented closure. For Sanders, it represented fuel. 1,000 NOs. He packed his pressure cooker, loaded his seasoning blend, and began driving, restaurant to restaurant, town to town, state to state. His pitch was simple, direct, and bold. I'll show you how to cook my chicken my way. You use my method. You pay me a small royalty per piece sold. He was not asking for employment. He was offering leverage. But most restaurant owners rejected him. Some dismissed him politely. Some laughed. Some told him they already served fried chicken. Some questioned why a 65-year-old man was trying to start over. Rejection became routine. He slept in his car. He cooked samples in unfamiliar kitchens. He refined his presentation with every conversation. Some accounts claim he was rejected over 1,000 times. Whether that number is precise or symbolic, the reality is clear. He persisted through repeated failure. Eventually, one restaurant owner said yes. That single yes created proof. Proof built credibility. Credibility built momentum. Momentum built scale. Within a few years, hundreds of restaurants were serving Kentucky Fried Chicken. He had built one of the earliest scalable franchise models in American fast food, building an empire at 70. By 1964, KFC had more than 600 franchise locations. At 74 years old, Sanders sold the company for approximately $2 million. Adjusted for inflation, more than $20 million today. But he did not disappear. He remained the face of the brand, traveling constantly, inspecting locations, protecting quality. He once publicly criticized franchise operators for poor gravy preparation. He treated the brand like a living organism. Under corporate ownership, KFC expanded internationally. Japan, Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, Asia. By the 1970s, it was a global brand. Today, KFC operates in over 150 countries, more than 27,000 locations worldwide, tens of billions in system-wide revenue annually. From a gas station kitchen to one of the most recognized brands in the world. The irony of late success. If the interstate had not bypassed Corbin, KFC might never have existed. Comfort would have limited ambition. Failure forced reinvention. Reinvention created scalability. Modern startup culture glorifies youth. Sanders built his empire after 65. He had no venture capital, no tech infrastructure, no Silicon Valley ecosystem. He had persistence, experience, and a repeatable system. Failure refined him. Rejection strengthened him. Experience compounded. Behind KFC, there was doubt. Behind the logo, there was risk. Behind the empire, there was a man who refused to quit. He had $105 left, and he built KFC. Subscribe to discover what's really behind the logo.